Dear friends, we are glad to have you with us again. Have you ever wondered while looking at the starry sky, why you in this place and at this moment? Why did your soul find itself in this specific body at this particular time? And have you ever asked, how many times have you been here on Earth, in other bodies, in other eras? Many people often contemplate this while observing those around them. Some of us seem so wise and calm, as if we have already seen and experienced so much, not only in this life. Others appear to be facing earthly trials for the first time. Everything is new and astonishing to them. And in those moments, the question inevitably arises, what determines the path of our soul? Why do some souls perhaps return again and again, while others leave forever? There's a story about Mary, who once shared an astounding case. At the age of 5, her son began to talk about a life in another town, about a house with a red door and a dog named Buffy, even though their family had never had a dog with that name, and they had never lived in the place he described. He described the details with such accuracy and confidence that it made Mary wonder, could these be memories from a past life? Such stories are not rare. Many people feel an inexplicable attraction to certain places, eras, or cultures. Some experience a strange sense of recognition when meeting completely unfamiliar people. Others have unexplained fears or phobias that seem to have no roots in their current life. Today we invite you on a remarkable journey, a deep dive into the mystery of souls, their paths, and destinies. Together we will try to find answers to a question that has troubled humanity for millennia. Why do some souls return to Earth, while others perhaps find another way? This question touches the very essence of our existence, our past, and our future. And while we do not have definitive answers, we can explore together various perspectives, beliefs, and even scientific theories that may help us get closer to understanding this great mystery. The question of why some souls return to Earth while others do not is one of the oldest and deepest inquiries that people pose to themselves around the world. Since ancient times, various cultures and spiritual traditions have sought to find answers to this mystery. From the Indian Vedas to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, from Buddhist teachings to mystical directions in Christianity and Islam, reflections on the journey of the soul can be found everywhere. In Hinduism and Buddhism, there exists the concept of samsara, an endless cycle of deaths and rebirths, from which the soul can free itself by attaining nirvana or moksha. According to these teachings, the soul reincarnates until it reaches enlightenment and breaks the chain of karmic attachments. Within some branches of Christianity, there were also teachings about the reincarnation of souls. Although these ideas were later rejected by the official church, modern spiritual practices often combine various traditions, offering their perspective on the path of the soul. Many people today believe in reincarnation, even if they do not belong to religions that traditionally support this idea. Surveys show that around 25% of Americans believe, to some extent, in the possibility of the soul returning to a new body. An interesting story is that of John, a firefighter from Boston who experienced clinical death while rescuing people from a burning building. When his heart stopped for a long 4 minutes, John, by his own account, found himself on the other side. He described an extraordinary feeling of peace and tranquility, encounters with long-deceased relatives, and a bright light that seemed to contain all the wisdom of the universe. But the most remarkable part of his story is the sensation of choice. I was made to understand that I could stay there or come back, recalls John, and I realized that I still had unfinished business on Earth. I felt that I had to return for my children and to complete some important mission, although I still do not fully understand what it entails. John's story is just one of many testimonies from people who have experienced near-death experiences, who speak of the feeling of choice and unfinished lessons in life. But what are these lessons? Why must some souls return while others do not? One of the most common theories explaining the return of souls to Earth is related to the concept of karma and unfinished life lessons. In Eastern traditions, karma means not just punishment or reward, but rather the sum of all actions performed by a person and their consequences, which shape the future experience of the soul. This can be imagined as a spiritual law of cause and effect. Each action creates a certain energy that must find its completion. According to this theory, souls return to Earth because they have something unfinished from past lives. This may include lessons not learned, karmic debts unpaid, or experiences not lived. For example, a soul that in a past life avoided difficult relationships and did not learn to forgive may return to face exactly these trials and overcome them. Or a person who caused suffering to others may return to experience similar difficulties and cultivate compassion within themselves. The story of Sarah, a schoolteacher from Seattle, illustrates this idea. Since childhood, Sarah experienced an inexplicable fear of water, even though there had never been any traumatic incidents related to bodies of water in her life. This fear was so strong that even taking a shower was a source of stress for her. After many years of therapy that yielded no results, Sarah decided to try regression hypnosis. During the session, she saw herself as a young woman in the 19th century who drowned during a flood while trying to save her child. After this session, something changed, Sarah recounts. I began to understand that my fear has deep roots, but it does not belong to my current life. Gradually, I started to work with this fear, not as a phobia, but as a memory that needs healing. A year later, Sarah not only overcame her fear, but also became a volunteer teaching children to swim. Spiritual traditions say that if the soul has learned all the necessary lessons and purified its karma, it can exit the wheel of rebirths. However, this does not necessarily mean the end of existence. Rather, it signifies a transition to a new level of being, where the soul can continue to evolve without the need to return to a physical body. This state is referred to by different names in various traditions: nirvana, moksha, enlightenment, or union with the divine. There's also an interesting theory that suggests that before incarnation, souls enter into some form of contracts or agreements. According to this view, each soul voluntarily chooses certain life challenges, encounters, and even traumas not as punishment, but as an opportunity for growth and development. It is akin to enrolling in a difficult school with a particularly challenging program. The soul undertakes this because it understands the value of such an experience. This theory proposes that before birth, we consciously choose not only the main circumstances of our life, but also the people with whom we will interact. This explains why some meetings seem predetermined and why we feel an instant and inexplicable connection with certain people. Such souls are often referred to as soulmates, or belonging to the same soul group. These are souls that incarnate together time and again, playing different roles in each other's lives. Michael and Elizabeth from Chicago tell a remarkable story of such a connection. They met by chance in a bookstore when both reached for the same book about ancient civilizations. At the moment our eyes met, I felt like I had known this woman my entire life, even though we had never met before, says Michael. Elizabeth felt the same way. It was a strange sense of recognition, like meeting an old friend after a long separation. Their relationship developed with astonishing ease. It seemed they intuitively understood each other with half words. Later, they discovered remarkable coincidences in their lives. Both grew up in small towns with similar names, both lost their fathers at the same age, and both dreamed of visiting the same places, even though they had never spoken about it. Sometimes I feel like we have been together many times in different lives, reflects Elizabeth. Maybe in one life we were siblings, in another, friends, in a third, spouses. And each time we teach each other something new. Such stories make us reflect on the profound nature of human relationships. If the theory of soul contracts is true, then every meeting in our lives is not a coincidence and carries the opportunity for spiritual growth. This is especially true for complex and painful relationships. Perhaps they provide the most important lessons for which the soul decided to return to Earth. Many spiritual traditions agree that the ultimate goal of the soul is to achieve enlightenment, or a higher level of spiritual development. In Buddhism, this state is called enlightenment. In Hinduism, moksha, and in Christian mysticism, union with God. When the soul reaches this state, the cycle of rebirths may come to an end for it, as all necessary lessons have been learned and the karmic debt has been paid. How can we recognize an old soul, one that has gone through many incarnations and is nearing the end of its earthly journey? Such individuals typically possess an innate wisdom that manifests from an early age. They often exhibit extraordinary calmness and patience, an intuitive understanding of life's processes, and a relative detachment from material possessions. These individuals frequently feel out of this world and experience a deep connection with all living things. The story of Robert, a successful businessman from Florida, illustrates the path of an old soul. For most of his life, Robert dedicated himself to building a career, accumulating wealth, and acquiring status. But at 70, having achieved all his material goals, he experienced a profound spiritual crisis. I suddenly realized that all these things I valued so much actually mean nothing, recalls Robert. It was like a awakening, as if I had been chasing a mirage my whole life. After this realization, Robert radically changed his life. He sold most of his possessions, keeping only what was necessary, and founded a fund to help homeless animals. He began to spend more time in nature, meditating and helping others. For the first time in my life, I feel true peace, he says. It feels like I am finally fulfilling what I truly came to this world to do. What happens to the soul that has achieved enlightenment and does not need to return to earth? Different spiritual teachings offer different answers. Some speak of merging with the divine source, others of transitioning to higher planes of existence, and still others of becoming spiritual teachers for other souls. Perhaps there are infinitely many paths of development beyond earthly experience that we, being in physical bodies with limited perception, simply cannot fully comprehend. Some spiritual teachers suggest that the evolution of the soul does not end with the attainment of enlightenment, but rather shifts to a new, more subtle level. There may be even more amazing adventures of consciousness awaiting us, of which we can only guess for now. Some spiritual teachings talk about souls that have reached a high level of development, but have chosen to remain on this side of the veil, instead of completely freeing themselves from the earthly plane. These souls may choose the role of spiritual helpers, mentors, or guides for those who are still in the process of learning and growth. In various traditions, such beings are referred to by different names: guardian angels, spirit guides, ascended masters, or bodhisattvas. The latter term comes from Buddhism and refers to enlightened beings who have renounced nirvana, taking a vow to help all living beings achieve liberation. This is the highest act of compassion and love. The possibility to exit the cycle of rebirths exists, but the soul voluntarily remains to serve others. Such souls can influence earthly reality without physically incarnating. They can guide, inspire, protect, and comfort those who are in physical bodies. Sometimes their presence can be felt in moments of crisis or important life choices, like a sudden insight, a feeling of protection, or an unexplained impulse leading in a certain direction. Linda, a nurse from Oregon, shares how she felt the presence of her grandmother Martha during the most difficult moments of her life. My grandmother passed away when I was 20, but in critical moments, I always feel her close, Linda shares. When I was making a difficult decision about changing careers, I distinctly smelled her perfume and heard a whisper saying, "Go ahead." And when I was nearly in a car accident, something literally made me slam on the brakes a second before the collision, and I am sure it was her. Many people report similar experiences, especially after the loss of loved ones. They talk about inexplicable coincidences, signs, dreams, or even clear manifestations of the presence of departed loved ones. Skeptics may explain these phenomena as the workings of the subconscious or desire to find comfort in grief. However, for those who have undergone such experiences, these moments become powerful evidence that the connection between souls is not broken by physical death. In some spiritual traditions, it is said that such helper souls may sometimes partially incarnate to carry out a specific mission. They come to Earth not for personal lessons, but to assist in the collective evolution of humanity. Perhaps great teachers of humanity, like Buddha, Jesus, or other significant spiritual leaders, were indeed such souls, who achieved enlightenment but returned out of great compassion. Interestingly, the topic of reincarnation and the journey of the soul attracts the attention not only of spiritual seekers, but also of scientists. In recent decades, numerous studies have been conducted that, while they cannot definitively prove the existence of past lives, provide intriguing material for reflection. One of the pioneers of the scientific study of reincarnation was Dr. Ian Stevenson, a professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia. Over the course of 40 years, he investigated more than 3,000 cases of children around the world who claimed to remember their past lives. Stevenson meticulously documented these cases, verified facts, and sought rational explanations. Many of his findings are difficult to explain in any other way than by acknowledging the possibility of the transfer of consciousness from one life to another. For example, in one of the most convincing cases, a 2-year-old boy from Lebanon began to talk about his other life in a neighboring village. He named his former name, the names of relatives, described the house and the circumstances of his death. When researchers verified this information, they found that all the details matched the life of a person who died several years before the boy's birth. What is particularly astonishing is that these villages had no contact with each other, and the boy's family had never heard of that person. In the field of neuroscience, interesting theories are also emerging that attempt to explain the phenomenon of life after death and the possibility of consciousness existing outside of the physical body. The theory of quantum consciousness suggests that our consciousness is not just a product of brain activity, but a fundamental property of the universe, similar to space or time. If this is the case, then consciousness may exist independently of a physical carrier. Dr. Sam Parnia, Director of Resuscitation Research at New York University, studies the experiences of people who have undergone clinical death. In his research, some patients were able to accurately describe events occurring around them when their brains showed no activity. This data forces us to reconsider our most fundamental notions about the connection between the brain and consciousness, notes Dr. Parnia. Regression hypnosis is another area that allows for a glimpse into possible past lives. Although skeptics assert that the memories arising in such a state may be products of imagination or suggestion, there are cases where individuals under hypnosis reported historical details that were later verified, even though they could not have obtained this information in their present life. It is important to note that science has yet to confirm or deny the reality of reincarnation. However, the growing body of research prompts even skeptics to acknowledge that there are many unexplained phenomena in this area that merit further investigation. In summary of our conversation about the journey of souls, it is important to remember that regardless of whether we believe in reincarnation or not, these spiritual concepts can enrich our everyday lives. They offer a deeper understanding of our experiences and help us find meaning even in the most difficult circumstances. If we consider the idea that our soul has chosen this life for certain lessons, then every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. Difficult relationships can teach us patience and forgiveness. Failures can develop resilience and wisdom within us. Even illnesses and losses can be catalysts for deep internal transformations. As Robert said after his spiritual awakening, I realized that there is no bad experience. There are only lessons I have agreed to learn. The practical wisdom we can draw from these reflections is simple. Live each day mindfully. Approach every meeting, every event, every challenge as an opportunity for the development of your soul. Ask yourself, what can I learn in this situation? What lesson is life offering me? Cultivate compassion for yourself and others. If souls truly travel together from life to life, playing different roles and helping each other grow, then every person we meet is a potential teacher or student, a friend from a past life or a kindred spirit. In this context, kindness and understanding become not just moral qualities, but a natural expression of the deep connection between all beings. Joan, a retired teacher from Arizona, discovered that accepting the idea of multiple lives completely changed her attitude toward her own aging. When I look in the mirror and see the wrinkles, I think not about losing my youth, but about how much experience my soul has accumulated. These wrinkles are a map of my journey, and I take pride in each of them, she smiles. Wherever your soul is in its journey, remember that you are not here by chance. Your life has a deep meaning, even if you are not fully aware of it yet. Every choice you make, every expression of love or kindness, creates ripples in the ocean of the universe, affecting not only you but also everyone you come into contact with. Ultimately, various spiritual traditions converge on one point. The essence of life lies in love, growth, and service. If we focus on these values, we not only enrich our current lives, but may also prepare our souls for the next step in their incredible journey, whatever that may be. Dear friends, we thank you for joining us today on this remarkable journey through the mysteries of the soul. Your attention and interest in these profound questions are truly valuable to us. We hope this conversation about the journey of souls has left you with food for thought in your heart and perhaps helped you view your life from a new, deeper perspective. If you enjoyed this video, please support our channel. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you won't miss new releases. Your support helps us create more content on topics that touch on the most important questions of our existence. Share this video with friends and loved ones whom you think might find it interesting. And of course, we always welcome your comments and thoughts. What aspect of the journey of the soul did you find most interesting? Share your reflections with us. Until we meet again in our next videos, take care of yourself and your loved ones.